Welcome to episode 3 of intx, where we explore the stories of both ordinary and extraordinary people in tech, with the goal of helping you better understand how to get in and navigate the sector. The format of these podcasts is as follows. We walk through the career of the guest from as early as is relevant, exploring the who, what, when, and whys of the person they've become today. So today's guest is Stephanie Reid-Noe, a front-end developer, small business guru, and volleyball coach. Having started out in microbiology in 2008, Stephanie spent years across a variety of sectors, from education to sales. With a love of STEM, she joined the tech space later in her career as a software developer and is currently a front-end dev at her own contracting company, Big Red Productions, and CEO of One Smart Cookie. So when you reached out initially, the first thing that you said was you're a full stack dev, web dev, UX, UI designer, and marketing manager in the beginning stages of developing your own small biz tech company. And followed that up by, it's been an absolute train wreck, but with tears, pizza, cancer, and triumph, which was the perfect sales pitch for me.
I closed the deal. What can I say? That's
Absolutely.
just what I do. I'm a closer.
Definitely. So from that point on, I thought I have to get you on and hear that story elaborated. So yeah, if we could just walk us through your career to get to where you are now, from early is relevant.
Yeah. So my sales career really began, it began a long time ago, but as far as is relevant, like I was in the car business for many, 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 many years. And I made sure to absorb any kind of information that I could as far as sales process, getting to know your customer, and also kind of that follow-up process, all the while still going ahead and going to school at the same time as well. So I kind of had those double studies going on. Always really, really been like a nerd. So anything STEM related and science and mathematics, I just loved getting my hands on. Turns out recently diagnosed with ADD. So it makes complete sense because education is kind of my hyper focus. But it's really opened a lot of doors and integrations, especially leading up until now. Because I don't like punching clocks, I don't like having, well, I have a schedule, but it's more determined by my work ethic versus clocking in, clocking out, and just doing that same thing over and over and over again until I die. I just thought there's more to life than this.
Absolutely.
So I just kind of used my qualities and filled my schedule with things that I wanted to do that could make me money. And last October? No, the October before that, I found WazU, which was a software development program, and worked my way through that. It was the most challenging thing by far I had ever done. And for me to say that is a pretty big deal, because I can learn something like this. But that's just because of hyperfixation stations. But
why do you think it was so difficult? Was it what was it?
Well, I think it was a lot of not being able to have a 20 group around me. You know what I'm saying? There was nobody that, except for my mentors at the program, which were great, but it wasn't something that I felt that I could just keep going back and back and back and back. I didn't have that circle, that inner circle.
Yeah, no, I get that, because that was something that I was suggesting to like my partner when she's looking into tech, and she was looking at just doing courses online and stuff. But I thought, for me, the most beneficial part of going to uni was that sitting in a row of computers bouncing off everyone if you're stuck on something.
Yes.
Definitely. But sorry, to bring it back then with sales. So what drew you to sales? Are you a natural kind of charismatic, or?
Yes. So I consider myself an ambivert, right? So like in my personal life, I'm a little bit more withdrawn, but like in my professional life, like I don't know. I know a little bit about everything because I've been a single mom since Well, gosh, my oldest is 21 years old. So
Right.
I've had to become an expert at a lot of things. And
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
given me a lot of ways to be able to relate to people. But then also, swinging right back around is I want to learn if I'm going to do something, I want to be the best that I can be at it.
Yeah.
Like giving 75% is just not in my repertoire. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just kind of connect with people. And the biggest thing is finding out information. If you let
Yeah.
people talk to you, they'll tell you exactly what they need to not only make the sale, but to also give them a product that's going to solve their problem in a way that is going to keep them a loyal customer because you were able to do something that someone else was not.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Problem solving, selling the solution. I'm waiting for you to sell me something here, a course or something. But so then after when you were studying from sales, did you then just go into full-time sales?
Yes, I was in the car business for 7 years.
Hmm.
I was in sales for 3 of it, and then I was a finance manager, which basically I did a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, the
Did
exciting part.
yeah, did a lot of paperwork, and then I was also in the service department as well. So I learned a lot about the service side. I wanted to be able to kind of move myself up and learn more about the business. And
Hmm.
it's interesting. It's a very interesting field, but it was kind of one of those things again that it was your professional development and progression was all dependent on someone else saying you can move up. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And that it's so hard to do in any field, but it's especially hard whenever you know you, you just have somebody else placing limitations on you, which is why I love being a freelancer because my success depends on me and how hard I
yeah.
work.
100%. Yeah, it's not like you could work
I'll
all
give
the
myself a
hours.
gold star anytime I want it.
Exactly, exactly. That's a good way to look at it.
No.
But it's true, you don't have your destiny in someone else's hands who could just, pass you up for someone they like better in some specific circumstance.
Yep.
Um, so during your time at sales, you were saying earlier about your Grant Cardone and stuff. Did you go on some courses or was it like just online media you were consuming?
Well, for courses, the dealership that I worked with, I actually talked them into bringing on Joe Verdi, and I got master certified. Well, it's the equivalent of master certification through Joe Verdi. And then with Grant Cardone, I literally, any audiobook that he had, I had a lot of windshield time. And that people completely underestimate, like there is decompression time and hype up time, but there's also that windshield time for self-development.
Hmm.
And that's one thing, like there was Grant Cardone, there was levels of leadership by John Maxwell. There's just a plethora of information that's literally in our pockets that we
Yeah.
have to be able to take that success on ourselves and build on it. So
Yeah, no, definitely. I couldn't agree more as well because that's well, my partner before we lived together, she lived like five, no, like 7 hours away, something crazy. And then at university as well, where I went to university was, I think, 4 hours or 3 hours from home, something like that. So I was always driving about. Um, and yeah, just like the amount of hours that I got of audiobooks just under my belt. And it was essentially driving became like you put your audiobook on and it's like, as self-help, self-improvement, self-development. But more than that, it's like just, you don't think about it like that. You just want to do it. You're
yeah,
just like, oh, we're going to drive, so put that on instead of, listening
exactly.
to the radio or, Spotify or
It's an
something.
opportunity, and once you start, one thing that Grant kind of really hones in on is
Mm.
each action that you take is worth money.
Yeah.
It's worth a certain amount of money, whether it's a direct sales action of closing that deal, or making those improvements to yourself, making those follow-up calls,
Yeah.
anything that you do to better yourself and helping your customers is gonna make you money. So is it worth $100,000 to not listen and develop yourself? Once you think that you know it all, then that's whenever your business starts to crumble, because the market's always changing, your customers are always changing, the products are always changing, especially in tech.
Yeah,
Like
for sure. You can't just
every
rely
day,
on the next
literally.
model. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So then what took you out of financials then? Was it that like kind of glass ceiling?
It was glass ceiling. The hours in the car business are brutal.
Yeah.
Like there are 12-hour days, some days six days a week. Here in Illinois, which is where I'm from in the States, like we're not allowed to be open on Sundays, which is a good thing, because they probably would be open on Sundays and then they would be working 7 days a week. Like
Yeah.
the expectations are very high, but it also has a lot to do from the inefficiency and the training, or the lack of training, to make people more efficient from the time they clock in till the time that they clock out, which was kind of what set me apart. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but I worked really hard with self-development and being able to close more sales with fewer opportunities. So
Yeah.
that's the name of the game. It's
Yeah. And what tips could you give someone who is looking to come better at sales then?
Oh, definitely anything that you can get your hands on. Listen to it. Audiobooks, again, that windshield time. One thing that I really had to get used to was being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Because you have to ask the hard questions, you have to dive deeper, and don't sell scared. Because when you sell scared, you're just selling a product to sell a product, and that person is not going to come back to you. They're not going to refer their friends, their family, nothing, right? So you may have made that one sale, but then they may return that product because it's not what they need, or they're not sold on you, because the product will sell itself. What they're going to be sold on is the service after the sale.
Right. Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. And so then what came after the car business?
There was a big gap. That was whenever I was in education, because I was burnt out on
Yeah.
working all of those hours. So I took some time, and I was in education and kind of did my own thing. Also, I run a couple of small businesses. They wax and wane, so you make sure that you have a couple of different flows of income. So when one business maybe has its little break, going ahead and having that spare income, so that you don't have to drop the business altogether, because you've put time, money, effort, energy. Your family has as well, supporting you in it. Not to completely let it go, and just kind of focus something else where the money is coming in. So
And so is that the motivation then behind having different businesses, is to diversify your income streams?
yes, 100%, because their social media absolutely influences a lot of things, right? So there is going to be a time where everybody wants baked goods, right? So everybody is seeing all of these different scrolls, and I get a whole bunch of calls. There are some times where I have to turn down business, or I refer business to other people if I'm too busy doing something else. But I never say completely no. I usually refer the business out, but just making sure that you have if you're going to be self-employed, don't rely on one income stream, because that's a failing formula. Because at some point it's going to wane, no matter how much work and effort that you put into it. And then you're going to get scared, and then you're going to go back to your 9-to-5 job, and you're going to hate it for the next 10 years. Do what you love, but make sure you have a backup plan, and keeping that household stabilized.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that something that you learn the hard way, or were you able to pick up that from other people?
No, it was absolutely the hard way.
Yeah.
Because that being a single mom, having people rely on you and you only, you have to make sure that you still have that safety net, and you just, it's very difficult to fail.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to, there's no other option but to do something else if something doesn't work, right?
Mhm.
So it took me this long to know, and it was actually kind of by accident, because I didn't let one business go. I just added another business. I was like, oh wait.
Yeah, it's like you've been walking like this the whole time, covering one eye.
Exactly. Like the clouds parted and the
Yeah.
angels shone down upon me.
Yeah, because it is a lot of pressure there of having, a child. And did that influence? Was it prior to the kind of realization that you had to get another income stream? Did you find having a child changed how you worked, or were you always just quite, like, we're gonna win no matter what?
Well, I had always, up until that point, had to have 3 or 4 jobs
Mhm.
at a time anyways, because I had these college credit hours, but I didn't have the certificate saying that I was hireable in this field, my gosh, George, sign me up. But so I had all these minimum wage paying jobs, but in order to make ends meet with children and paying those bills, being the only one at that point, I didn't have any external support coming in from other parental units. And so working multiple jobs had always been something I had done. I don't know why I didn't think that being an entrepreneur and having those small businesses was going to be any different. But once you figure that key out and what works together, because that's a whole nother part of it, is some businesses require all of your attention at one point or another. And but being able to find those businesses that you can pick up and put down and develop at different points, or okay, I can throw some ads, some targeted ads on Facebook and go ahead and make some money in a couple weeks off of this, versus okay, oh gosh, what is the market not saturated with? What is too much? I've found though that if I'm the only one who can do what I do, then I also get more of that revenue coming in, versus say going to a multi-level marketing agency where there are 50 reps in the area that I'm at.
Yeah. No, for sure. And so then during your education, you said after sales, what was it you were kind of studying, I suppose?
Well, I started off with microbiology.
Yeah.
And from all of that, right before COVID hit, I was going back. I was like, okay, I've got all of this STEM, I've got all of this. So what am I going to do with this science? So I was going to go into nursing. COVID hit. They're like, hey, let's go to this COVID wing. We don't know anything about this disease. And it scared the crap out of me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no wonder. It was
my very first clinic, that's where they wanted me to go. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. So I want to give props to all those nurses. Just want to say, hey girls, like I was way too scared to do that. So then again, I felt like I was failing, because it was like, here we go again. And I found the software development program, and I was like, oh, I'm really good at math, English, and science. Like, it's all programming is math, English, and science just kind of put together. So it's all really programs are, is a bunch of DNA codons that then react and start another chain event somewhere else. So I love it.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And so how did you find that course? Had you already done some research in your own time prior?
Facebook.
Yeah.
It was one of the ads kind of coming through, and I punched on it, and in true Facebook fashion, then like every third ad was a was an ad for a software development program. And at first, funny enough, I was going to be in the data science program, but they would not accept my statistics courses. I've had like 3. And I was like, you know what? I am not taking another statistics course. I will die. I will shove a pencil in my eardrum before I take another statistics class. And
yeah, I think 3 is enough.
Huh?
I think 3 is enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
there's only so many word problems that you can change around and it not be the same thing. Like
So then your course, how long was it? What was it in? Just like a full stack developer course?
yes, it was full stack. Um, it briefly touches on a lot of the different things, right? So
Yeah.
they do the introduction, but it's absolutely 100% your job to then find out which part that you're most interested in and then really do a deep dive into that and get some more information. They teach you how to do the basics and then you go through, because education is my hyper focus. I was like, ooh, I like this. Let's learn everything there is to know about this. So that's what I did.
Yeah, never looked back.
Yeah, no, I knew as soon as, well, I wouldn't say as soon as I got into the course, because there were definitely a lot of tears and imposter syndrome issues that kind of happened. And oh my God, what did I get my freaking self into? But after all that, it was fantastic. And I actually had work that I had prospected and closed before I was even graduated. So that part was nice.
Brilliant. And did you do that just as a freelancer? Or is this pre Big Red Productions? Or is this the inception of it?
Big Red Productions has always been a thing because I've done a lot of promotional work and sales work through the entity of Big Red Productions, right? So adding the software development and web design is actually just kind of adding to the stack of my portfolio.
Right.
Because I've had to, with my other businesses, I've had to know how to add target. I've had to know how to work with customers. I've had to, you know, all the services that I offer, I just added another piece to the portfolio and another service. So
And so do you still offer a variety of services under that?
oh yeah,
company?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. What basically how I do it is it's full service, right? A lot of people are not tech savvy. So my fees come with system administration, right? So like my tagline is have a professional in your pocket, not on your payroll, right? So you don't have to have
Like
that
that.
one person who is drinking coffee for most of their day, like, and you're paying their salary and their unemployment and their insurance, you know, all of that stuff. Whereas, you know, you can just pay me and I'll take care of all of that for you. But on top of that, I also find out what their problems are. We're going to circle on back. We're going to do a nice little callback on that because you know, solving problems is basically what I do. And I find if I don't have a technology stack within my portfolio, then I go learn one because education is my hyper focus. I can just be like, oh, okay, here's this, learn everything about it and magically present it. Like I've known about this the entire time. Like you don't.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes you find that in tech as well, that you only have to know like that first little bit. Like if this is the subject, you only have to know the first like 10%, and then you present that and everyone's blown away.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like
They
here,
have so
I
many
felt
questions.
like putting my initial GitHub repository together, I felt like, well, this is so basic. Nobody's going to want to look at this because you feel like, but then people look at it and they're like they got drool hanging off of their mouths a little bit. And it's like, but that's also how I knew that I was meant to be in this part of tech, right? Because it was something that made sense to me, that I was able to converge all of that information that I had previously learned into something that I absolutely love doing on every aspect and be able to make money from it. You know, I'm not ashamed to say that it's a slightly capitalist venture. So
No, quite right. You know, and would you say then as well that part of your unique selling point, like your USP for Big Red Productions, then is part also that you're not just like a coder, you're not just someone who's, you know, that's how they've come up, but you're more so problem solver who is, as you say, like client focused, like
yes,
almost you're more like sales who just so happen to sell solutions to technical problems.
100%. 100%. And that was kind of the angle that I took in the car business and why I was able to close deals, right? Because I listened to what the customer needed. I solved the problem that they needed at a price that they could afford. So because if you're stressed out about paying that bill, or you're stressed out about everything that I do is scalable. So even if you could only start off with a small solution at first, and then scale it with your business, as that in turn brings you money, being able to reinvest that back into your business. It's a Venn diagram of a bunch of things that meets in the middle with customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And what's your best way of finding clients? Have you tried a myriad of ways, all the different
word
ads?
of mouth.
Yeah.
Word of mouth. That was just me talking. Imagine that. The hard part's getting me to shut up sometimes. That's the hard part. Just basically going out and telling people what you do, finding a way to bring it up in conversation. It may not even make sense in the conversation, but at the end of your elevator pitch, no, if they need it, they're not going to care. And if they don't, well, okay. We just became besties anyway. So
yeah, exactly. Maybe they know someone.
Exactly. And that's part of it too, is being able to, be the guy, be that guy, because you also need to ask if they know somebody. That's part of all of my customers. All of my customers, whenever I finish a job, I make sure that they're 100% satisfied, because I don't want them to go around bad mouthing me, like, oh my God, this girl right here. But you ask for that additional business, or say, hey, if you do ever think of anybody, because some people don't like being put on the spot. Like, if you do ever think of anybody, would you mind sending them my way, or reaching out and saying that this person may be interested? That I haven't even officially launched my business yet, because I can't, because I literally, as soon as I sit down to launch my business, I already have another customer in the queue. Like,
and hence, so you'll have to start scaling up.
Exactly. That's why I'm actually in the process of hiring a few more people that I went to school with. One of my mentors, I was like, hey. He's like, yeah, because it really is. It's a great business model, because I don't want to be anyone's boss, and I don't want anyone's boss to be my boss. It's a lot like agile project management, where if my advertising brings in somebody, I take a percentage, and then they take care of everything else, and anything that they upsell is like their deal. That's their customer now. I just bring them in, and we all work together, because even if that person does refer somebody, then it just comes back and forth until we all just win. And it needs to be not a competitive mindset. I think that's where a lot of corporations fail, is you have too many people cutthroat, and whenever we could all, there's no shortage of success. Like, everybody can be successful. We just have to put the work in, rather than working against each other. Just tackle the market and help as many people as you can.
Yeah, definitely a good message. And so is it an agency style that you're looking at, where you kind of take a percentage for the leads, almost?
Yes. So if I bring in the business, they're considered like freelance contractors, right? That to where if my queue is full, then I have a network of developers that can do that. Or if for some reason, if it's something else, say like the social media ads, or setting up chatbots, setting up CRMs, because I do that too. If I'm too busy for it, that's when I go ahead and reach out to my network, and then take my percentage and say, hey, this is what I can pay you to complete this, because it's a lot like having been in the service department of the dealership. Whenever you go to get your car fixed, it's X amount of dollars, because it's going to be X amount of labor, X amount of materials. Of course, our materials are all digital, but that still goes into the count of cost versus paid. So it's very, very new age, like honor system, But at the same time, if we're all making money, there's no reason for anyone to stray. Plus we have our own little 20 group that we're able to then, have a community and bounce
Yeah.
things off of with people and not have to punch a clock. So
Yeah. The
if I
main
want to work
bonus.
7 p.m. to 7 a.m., or if I want to work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., or if I want to work a couple hours and get some work done, then I can do that and not have somebody breathing down my neck because I'm still putting out a good product and at the timeline that it needs to be done at. So
Yeah. So what's the problem? Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah. I
You're
do like
welcome. You're welcome.
I do like that. And it's like there's I can't remember his name, a YouTuber, he's a designer, and he has like quite a few videos about it, but there's one quite famous short in which he's talking to a guy and he's like doing a kind of sales pitch, but it's like a mock pitch. And the guy's saying, "Oh, it's too dear," and then they'll start talking about it being hourly paid, and then he gets this entire loop back round, and he's like, "So you want me to do the best one, but then you want this with time and this and that, you want and it just doesn't make any sense." And I'm not doing it justice, but I can't remember. But basically, he
No,
says that yeah, time
I know
doesn't
it's,
matter.
yeah. Everybody wants you to give 130%, but they want to pay you 80% wages.
Yeah,
Like, that makes no sense.
no,
That's where, I've been in supervisory positions. I've been, an acting supervisor as somebody who is not being paid as a supervisor, and
yeah,
it's just one of those things that, like, I know my work ethic. I know the work that I put out, and the only way that I can guarantee that I am paid what I'm worth is if I'm the one writing the check.
yeah,
Like,
it's true.
yeah, it does come with its drawbacks of, you have to have your own insurance, if you don't have customers, you don't have a paycheck. But literally, as long as you just keep putting yourself out there and taking those sales actions, it takes so many contacts to get so many customers to respond to you. And then you're able to close that many sales off of that many customers. It literally is just a numbers game.
Hmm.
Just as long as you're making sure that you're keeping your customers real solutions at heart, number one, first and foremost, because they will give you other business.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a numbers game, but you have to maintain that quality across
Yes.
numbers. Yeah. And so when you're saying you have this network around you, how did you build that network? Is it just, over time from like your, I know that's quite a broad question, but
No,
I think
no, 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 no.
quite
Well,
often people don't know how to do it. Because I remember when I first started at Accenture, that was the main thing. They were putting down your neck for grads was network, network, network. And everyone's kind of looking at each other being like,
we're
what
all
does that mean?
introverts.
Exactly.
Since I have kind of the best of both worlds, right? So being an ambivert, I can have those times of being able to be outgoing and talkative and
Hmm.
everything like that. So that's really whenever I try to do most of my marketing, most of my networking and things like that. I am not like I have social anxiety. So it's very hard for me to network um like in person, like going out to
Hmm.
events or going out to a bar and just like handing my card out. Like you figure some dodgy lawyer is kind of doing like, hey, if you ever need anybody, I can't do those things, mostly also because like I'm 40 years old now. Like people in bars are so much younger, and you have to be a little bit tipsy to even kind of, you know, those kind of events really scare me. But
Yeah.
I've actually, we have over here the chambers of commerce.
Hmm.
And as I start drawing more income in, it's actually that reinvestment process is going ahead and signing up for different chambers of commerce.
So what's a chamber of commerce? Sorry.
Chambers of commerce. So like here, if you live in a certain county, like here in Illinois, there's an adjoining county called Jefferson County. Well, they have a
Hmm.
Jefferson County Chamber of Commerce. That's where all of those businesses, it's literally a networking event place.
Ah,
So all of
right.
the businesses registered there to network with each other and also network with the community and promote each other. So
Oh,
it's its
brilliant
own
idea.
little 20 group,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. But again, the networking in person is a little bit harder for somebody who really kind of thrives in this environment over the Zoom. The Zoom is where I've 100% of my business has been closed over Zoom. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And do you think that's advice then you would give to people who do want to start a business but have that fear of like, oh, I don't want to, just knock on someone's door or, whatever it is to utilize their environment as best they
If
can?
if you are not comfortable with those kind of things and cannot bring yourself to do it, first of all, I would say make yourself comfortable being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Some of us, we just can't. It's a paralysis thing. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things where you freeze up, you get that anxiety. If that's the case, you need yourself an extroverted friend that you give commissions to, right? Like bring in your network. If you have a
Hmm.
great product, you're doing the world a disservice by not putting it out there. Because I mean, those of us who are in this field, like we can do some pretty freaking amazing things, like just hands down. Like the world has been changed. Every time I look at a computer and I go to a website, now I'm thinking in divs, like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
It's so strange you say that. I was explaining to my partner, it's like when she was starting to learn Java, as that's the language I learned, and it's object-oriented language. And I see the world as like these objects, as if it was
Exactly.
Java. Yeah.
But that's being able to take an entire language and being able and having that ability to break it down into one single letter. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? And that's what is amazing, is being able to just completely think across all of these directories that we have in one program and knowing, oh, that's in this folder. What the crap? I don't even know where I put my freaking keys. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, for sure. That's it.
But
Sometimes you
having the
have to
ability,
just.
oh, go
Uh,
ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say. I quite often find myself saying that. Is sometimes you have to just give it to the like back brain. You have your front brain, back brain. You're like chuck it to the back brain. Don't try and talk to them. Just let them do the work, and it'll figure it out. It's like they're saying when you do
Exactly.
it second hand, you can just click on stuff. Don't have to think about it. Whereas when you
Yep.
think about it, that's where you start, messing up.
That's the many times I've actually cried during that program. Complete and utter crime. But are you really a program developer if you didn't cry at least one time, or stress out and completely scrap an entire project and start over? It's but the things is like we also kind of share that imposter syndrome too. And I think that's just part of the brain chemistry and
Hmm.
how the brain works, is that insecurity, right? But
Yeah.
knowing that, look what you're doing. Like
Hmm.
you're capable literally of changing how the world works by having one program, by changing the way one program even works. You have the ability to change an entire business by making sure that their ability to reach the world is not interrupted. When you
Hmm.
start looking at it like that, like have faith in yourself. Like you believed in Santa for how many years? Like believe in yourself for these next 5 minutes and I promise you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Definitely just don't get in your own way. Isn't
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And so what along the way then to where you are now, what's been your main challenges in getting here?
Family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've cut off a lot of people this year. When you hit, how old are you?
25.
25. Okay.
Yeah. Just turned
You,
it.
you just a
Big
little
quarter
bit.
century.
I'll be 42 this year, right? And not that that matters, because everybody's life is relevant to their own existence, right? But like I got to a point in my life where I finally said, like, ooh, let's cut these toxic people out, right?
Hmm.
And unfortunately, those scissors made it to some people who I shared DNA with. But I tell you what, it was as soon as literally the day that I cut those toxic people out of my life is when I landed my first job.
Yeah.
Like that doubt and everything else, those people that you have talking bad, whenever you talk bad about yourself, that's not your voice. We are beings of self-preservation, right? We want to live for the
Yeah.
most part, but there's so many things that happen along the way that alter your perspective of yourself, right? So I went and I got therapy, I cut toxic people out, and everything really began to flourish because then I really got to see kind of how awesome of a person I am without that adulterated image of what other people kind of forced upon me to see about myself, because that was their thought process about me, not who I actually was.
Yeah. So those negative voices in your mind, it's not yours, but it's others that have kind of crept in.
100%.
Yeah.
You didn't know you were getting a Gandhi moment, did you?
No, I didn't. I thought it was going to be like, oh, there was this one project where I was doing software development. But also, I think on the challenges front, if we could touch on it just briefly, if you're comfortable with it, when you had mentioned in the tagline initially, cancer.
Yes.
How's that impacted the journey?
That was definitely, that was a multi-year journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that I landed one of my dream jobs, which was that whenever I was in the car business at the time, moving up to business manager,
Mm-hmm.
I actually got hired at a company over in St. Louis, Missouri. Huge deal. Was like, oh my God, I finally made it. I've put all these years in, and literally the 2 days before my interview, I had to go get a biopsy done because they found a lump in my thyroid. On the way to my interview, I got a call from the doctor and they said it was cancer. So I had to like go through and be like, yeah, this is nothing big, and obviously I didn't want to tell them
Mm-hmm.
because, everybody hears cancer and they're like, oh my God, whoa. um, we did the surgery and put it up. They still had no idea. I just wore a scarf around my neck and they had no idea why. And I sat down with my boss one day. I was like, I got to tell you something, because at that point I was going to have to leave and go get radiation on top of that. And I took my scarf off and I was like, yeah, I just had some cancer removed and I need to go get radiation. His eyes got about this big.
Yeah, I could imagine. They'll be
Yeah.
thinking, she is hard, keep her here.
I know. I
You
was
know?
even wearing stilettos at the time. Like, I'm looking fabulous. Like, what in the world?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Luckily, I mean, they call thyroid cancer the good cancer because it's very treatable, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not, you don't have to go through chemotherapy unless it's metastasized to other places. But the main thing to where it really has stayed with me is those energy levels are always out of whack because it's your thyroid. That's what your thyroid's supposed to do. And then mentally, anytime that you get sick, you're like, ah, crap, it's cancer again. I just know it.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear it, but I'm glad that it's
Well,
of
it made me a stronger person, because it's like, what, all of these things keep coming at me, but I take them one day at a time and just keep going through and getting over those things. And that's also another part of my self-healing journey, was like, okay, like, look at all these things. You're a badass bitch. Like, come on now.
yeah, for sure. And that's it. It's through what you've shared of your story so far, it's definitely the main thing that I would take away is resilience.
Absolutely.
Unwavering self-belief as well.
Oh, that, I would say I faked it until I made it.
Yeah.
Because especially struggling with imposter syndrome and not believing in myself and having those negative thoughts, just kind of always there. It was a driving force, but at the same time, like, I did those things. Those negative voices didn't do those things. And once I realized that it was me the whole time. I took the Scooby-Doo mask off and it was like me. Like it did so much for my self-confidence. And once you realize just to have a little bit of faith in yourself, like then you start seeing those good things that you do and that the impacts that you have on other people and the good things that you put out, and you can finally be happy with yourself and with your work, and in turn it just multiplies.
Yeah. Do I have anything to add to that? Yeah, absolutely. I'm speechless.
I get that a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
But yes, it's definitely true though, that it's people often don't realize that things that they have done, and again that they have to attribute it to themselves. So they'll do something that will come and go, but they don't really take the time to process, like if they were viewing that as a spectator and it happened to someone else, how they would feel about that person. They never do that, and self-reflection.
Exactly. I would never talk to someone else the way that I had talked to myself in the past, and you're exactly right. Like those accomplishments, not just the negativity, but also the positivity from that. Like I wouldn't have been like, oh, well, you could have done this, like I'm like, oh my God, that's so freaking awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need more of that.
100%.
But no, it was brilliant having you on. Where can people find you?
Well, I am on Instagram at team_big_red. And also you can find me at my website, and it's going to be bigredproductions.us. We are a US based company, but because we are an online company, we can actually service worldwide. Yeah. If you've got an issue or a problem that you need solved, if I can't do it, I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
That's a challenge.
It is a challenge. It is a challenge.
Yeah. And so what kind of people or companies should come visit your website?
Oh, any small business, startup companies are my favorite because we definitely concentrate on everything from the CRM to the website to social media, all of that integration together just as a base model. And we do it affordably because we do it in phases. So we do the first phase and then they start bringing in some money and then they can move on to the second phase and get their business built in phases rather than having to have like 13 grand up front. You get to have those smaller phases where we have work completion.
Yeah, it's a very sustainable model as well to attract custom.
Yeah.
Get them generating, and then you're like, see, it's working.
Yep.
Keep going.
And all system administration is included. So if you're not tech savvy, don't worry about it. And we set up it to where you can actually create content very easily on your website, to where all you literally have to do is type your blog and you don't have to worry about any kind of design or anything like that. You literally just put in information and it populates everything for you.
There you go. Perfect. Easy. No reason not to do it.
Easy, lemon squeezy.
Love it. Well, thanks very much for coming along today, Stephanie. It's been brilliant talking to you. I greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And have a good day.
You as well. Well, you have a good night.
Thank you. See you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.